Part one of states of consciousness, sleep. Here we go. So, first of all, what are states of consciousness? States of consciousness basically are just how aware you are. So, you have different states of consciousness going around. Sometimes you lose this awareness spontaneously, like when you're daydreaming during the day, when you get tired at night, when you're dreaming. These things happen without you really doing anything. The less aware you are of things, the less your brain is able to process and learn new information, etc. So we're talking about these different states, and throughout the next 5 or 6 parts, we'll discuss these different states of consciousness. Sometimes states of consciousness are physiologically induced, so on hallucination, orgasm, food or oxygen starvation. These are different states of consciousness that your body's doing. And then some are psychologically induced from your head, like sensory deprivation, hypnosis, and meditation. And we'll talk about those things again as we go on. So first of all, let's just get right into sleep. So sleep, a first thing we need to know is this what's called this. Actually, there's 3 different types of rhythm, but the circadian rhythm is the 24-hour um, rhythm period. Um, it has to do with your body's rhythm and how it just kind of lives on this 24-hour clock. If you were to lock yourself in a room with no windows and live there for days on end, your body would generally have a 24-hour period where it would sleep, wake, and it would continue without you even knowing it's light, dark outside, or whatever. It might shift from what you're normally used to, but it's generally going to stick to a 24-hour period. So your circadian rhythm, all humans are just kind of set up this way. There's also this thing called, or another rhythm called the ultradian rhythm. And that is more than once a day. So what's an example of something that happens more than once a day? Going potty, making your duty, getting hungry, releasing hormones in your body for certain things, right? These are ultradian rhythms. And then infradian rhythms, this occurs once a month. And the classic example is a woman's menstrual cycle, would be an infradian rhythm. Okay? So these are the different types. You should know this and this as well as circadian. Another thing that's important with sleep and this 24-hour cycle is the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This is located in the hypothalamus, and it governs the 24-hour clock. It also is affected by light. So when it sees light, it tells the adrenal glands, hey, stop producing melatonin. Right, melatonin is like a sleepiness hormone. Stop producing that. It's getting light outside. And so you start producing that and you start waking up. This is one of the reasons why it's not a great idea to sleep when it's bright in your room, like with the television on, because your suprachiasmatic nucleus is telling your adrenal glands, hey, don't produce as much melatonin. It's not dark yet. I mean, it's light out, so you're not getting the melatonin to make you sleepy, right? So keep it dark. All right. Now, when you go into sleep, there's different stages you go in. There's actually like 5 stages. We'll talk about each one of these. But let's define some terms first. Alpha waves. So your brain, right? If you were to do an EEG, electroencephalogram, you would see the electrical activity of your brain, right? And this is some examples of it. So it looks like just like the heart rate monitor that you see in the movies. That's what an EEG kind of looks like. Alpha waves are short, they're rapid, they're all fairly the same size, and that's the type of waves that your brain has when you're awake, right? Because it's constantly receiving new information. The definition sleep. Sleep is the key with sleep is it's a natural loss of consciousness. as opposed to like a coma, which is unnatural, right? You get hit in the head, you have a coma. So sleep is this a natural loss of consciousness. Hallucinations are false sensory experiences. And the reason why we bring up hallucinations is because as you're going into stage one sleep here, I should change the color. As you're going into stage one sleep here, oftentimes you hallucinate. You've probably felt like the feeling that you're falling, or you'll be falling asleep and you'll catch yourself like this. Because you're hallucinating, your brain's starting to go into sleep. It doesn't quite realize it's in sleep yet. There's actually parts in your brain stem, but your brain's motor cortex is actually firing when you're starting to go down these different levels of sleep. But your brain stem's telling your rest of your body, hey guys, don't send the message all the way down. So it doesn't send the message down to your arms and legs very often. You might twitch when you're sleeping and whatnot, but usually it cuts off the motors. All right, so stage one, right? This is when you're just getting into sleep. Stage two, a little bit deeper. You start getting these spindle bursts where things kind of get a little bit bigger, so it's a little bit more irregular. Stage three is a transition stage. Stage four is what we call deep sleep. That's where these delta waves come in, right? Delta, deep, and these things are slower. They're farther apart, right? Remember, alpha waves are delta waves are right, right, and that sound effect is actually how they sound. Just kidding. And then you finally get into this REM sleep or REM sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement. Let's look at that here in the next slide. So this is rapid eye movement. The reason why it's called rapid eye movement is because right at the beginning of it, your eyes start twitching and dashing back and forth. Your eyes are closed, but you can tell that they're moving back and forth. So this is kind of the stages of sleep that you go through. You're awake, spend a little time here. In stage one is a very short period of time, maybe 10 minutes or so. As you're going in, you might spend about 20 minutes in stage two, right? And so this is where you're getting these little spindle bursts, right, in there. So it's like the right, spindle bursts. Things are starting to slow down, right? Your breathing in stage one and two is starting to slow down. Everything's just starting to get really relaxed. You don't spend a whole lot of time in stage three down here. And then stage four, you're going to spend initially about 30 minutes in stage four. And then finally, and this is total time up and down, right? And then right here when you get to REM, you spend about 10 minutes there at the beginning. And REM is where you have your dreams. And REM sleep or NREM sleep is non-REM sleep. So that's stage 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So this is 1 through 4 stages, and this is this part up here. REM sleep, right, has dreams that are often emotional. They're usually story-like. So if I woke you up during REM sleep, you usually be able to tell me what your dream was. Even people who say they don't dream, if I wake you up when your eyes are moving and you're in REM, you're going to 90% of the time recall your dream that you were just having. So REM sleep's important. There's different reasons we'll talk about in the next lecture here, the next part, about why we may sleep. Scientists aren't still 100% sure on this, but it could be important for a number of different reasons. You'll notice as you kind of move down the line here that you spend less and less time. You actually, by the time you get here, you don't spend any time in stage 4. You spend more time in REM, right? You get back up there again. So as the night wears on, right, this is hours of sleep. As the night wears on, you spend more time in REM. If you actually have like sleep deprivation or something, you're going to actually spend longer periods of time in REM. So we know it's important. We just don't know exactly what it is. Speaking of sleep deprivation, sleep loss, to show how important sleep is, right? This is just statistics, right? If we were doing a psychological experiment, if we were doing psychological research, this would be called naturalistic observation because we're just watching stuff, right? And so just watching the number of accidents at 2 different times during the year. So in the fall, which is going to happen here in a couple of weeks, we get an extra hour of sleep. So the Monday after you get an extra hour of sleep with a daylight savings time change, there are much more fewer accidents than in the spring when you lose an hour of sleep. So look at this, number of accidents 2,800, and number of accidents drop dramatically when we goes from 2,500 to 2,800, and then drops dramatically from 4,000 down to 3,700. And so you, because you have more sleep, you're more aware, right? Loss of sleep leads to a plethora of different conditions. You have difficulty studying, diminished productivity, tendency to make mistakes, irritability, fatigue. Here's an interesting one. You gain weight much more easily because your body is producing more ghrelin and less leptin, right? Leptin is kind of a hunger suppressant. You produce less of that the longer you sleep, and so you tend to eat more. And it also increases the stress hormone cortisol. And cortisol, when you get stressed, you tend to eat more as well. So get sleep, right? The idea that you have to have 8 hours of sleep isn't necessarily true. People can generally function well between 6 and 9. Most teenagers, though, are on the longer end of sleep because most teenagers are still growing cognitively, physically, and your body needs a chance to do that. So that's all we've got here for cognition. My computer just froze kind of, so here we go. Thank you.